Thank you, gentlemen. This is rumor control. Here are the facts.
Every time I leave a comment, some loser who's never had a meaningful woman in his life, or apparently doesn't appreciate the one that gave birth to him, chimes in with some kind of inverse feminist evil that states all women are vile, leeches who give nothing to earth and leech off men. This is a movement, right? I'm being told that it's called MGTOW, men going their own way, in which men say that marriage has now become a one-way street. Basically, women get everything out of it, so they're not going to do it.
Well, that didn't work as well as I thought it would. Well, how are we doing, gentlemen? Today, I'm going to dig right into this video that I was made aware of by Andrew Klavan. I am only peripherally aware of Andrew Klavan here. And he just dropped a clip. This is about a 5-minute, maybe a little bit longer than a 5-minute clip from a pre-existing show that he has. And he is a pundit, let's just say, I mean, call a spade a spade, a pundit on the Daily Wire, which of course is sort of a, definitely a conservative network, cable network. I don't know, cable, internet network. You can, of course, watch them on Apple TV and everything else. It's a sort of an answer to the need for a conservative network. And you'll find Candace Owens on there. A lot of the clips that I pull from her when I do breakdown videos of her, that's where it comes from the Daily Wire. I will put the video links in today's topic, in today's video, in the description, so you guys can go have a look at that. And so I want to throw out a few standard caveats here before I get started in this. First of all, I don't know Andrew from Adam. I'm sorry. I'm just now meeting you, Andrew. I only, like I said, I'm only peripherally aware of him in the sense that I know that he has done stuff with Ben Shapiro. I know he's been on. I don't know that he's been with Candace Owens. Maybe I know he's one of the guys that Dennis Prager likes to hang out with. Again, now caveats apply. I am not attacking Andrew Klavan in this video. Not personally, whatever. Okay. I want to clarify things here. That's number one. Whenever I do a breakdown video, whenever I detail things, whenever I have a response or a reaction video, I don't even like to call it a reaction video because it seems like I'm reacting. It's a breakdown so that a more reasonable, the rational male, right? Objective observation of what is being sort of put forth, particularly in this case, we're going to be talking about the TradCon, the traditional conservative side of things, as opposed to, say, the woke side. The woke side is very easy to sort of break down. And a lot of people think that I'm just, yeah, go get them. Well, okay, fine. But whenever I am sort of picking apart someone like Candace Owens, and again, not her personally, just the opinions expressed to educate guys in this sphere, in the manosphere, in the MGTOW sphere, in whatever sphere, whatever we're calling it right now. I don't even know what to call it, the men's sphere, right? Just so that there is a counterbalance to this. And so that's article number one. Article number two is a lot of people are going to presume that because I'm doing this topic that I'm suddenly MGTOW or he's sympathizing with MGTOW. I'm not. I am not a MGTOW. I've never pretended to be a MGTOW. I have stated many times that although I believe that MGTOW and even the black pill and even MRAs and even TradCons and especially PUAs and especially the red pill, whatever we're calling it right now, they get the analysis right. It's the prescription and the solutions that I have a hard time with, or that I fundamentally disagree with in some instances. It's just sort of differences. But there's a lot of crossover. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of crossover to get to MGTOW, to get to the black pill, to even get to sort of a even a red pill version of traditional conservatism. You have to have at least a red pill understanding. You have to be at least in some way red pill aware. As I've said before, I think the red pill gets co-opted by a lot of different interests who have really no interest or no purpose in actually claiming to be red pill. It just becomes whatever topic du jour that sort of fits their narrative, that suddenly becomes red pill. We're getting to a point right now where red pill is sort of a verb. Right? Well, I got red pilled, man. What red pilled you? It's not a verb. Okay, the red pill is an objective understanding of, in this case, intersexual dynamics, and that's what we're going to get to today. And that's what I cover. I'm not a PUA. I'm not an MRA. I'm not a MGTOW. I'm not black pill. I am not what I am not your Messiah. Okay, I am not your savior. I'm just here. I just work here, man. I just put up the observations, and I let you guys connect the dots along with me and join the conversation. And that's really where we have to kind of start here. So that's caveat number 2. Caveat number 3 is this: before I dig in, everyone is going to say, well, especially by the end of this one, why is Rollo so against marriage? He's been married for X amount of years. Okay, well, let's clarify things. Come July 20th of this year, I will have been married 25 years. Happily, thank you for all of them. I have a wonderful 23-year-old daughter who is working on her master's degree right now, and graduated magna cum laude from her undergraduate, and is a pageant winner and is a gorgeous, well-adjusted human being, feminine, lovely, loving daughter, despite what a lot of rumors are floating around, courtesy of certain convention proprietors, or soon to be former convention proprietors, would like you to believe. I have been married for quite some time, very happily, and I apply red pill principles, and like I said, I am the game, right? I apply that to my life, and I apply that to my marriage, and I am better off for it. So there you have that. Now, the reason why is Rollo making this a caveat? Well, the reason for that is because the moment I go and I say anything that is in any way unflattering of marriage, particularly in 2021, when we are looking at record low marriage rates and consequently record low divorce rates too, as a result of that. When I even point those statistics out as measured and as reasonable as I possibly can, the first most basic reflexive binary extreme response to that is, well, he hates marriage. I can't believe a guy like who would talk like that couldn't possibly have no. He couldn't possibly have a real good marriage. How horrible. How he's so down on marriage. Well, we're gonna find out about that here as we progress through today's topic. So I want to put that out there as well, because a lot of people are going to presume that he's bitter, he's burned, he must be been forced through the divorce machine. No, I haven't. and that I think what I'm about to get into today is going to it's going to sound weird to people who are binary, into binary extremes. That seems to be what everybody's into right now. But it's also going to seem weird coming from a guy who has had for almost just coming up here and within 1 month, for 25 years, what most guys would equate as an ideal marriage. And I feel pretty confident in saying that. I'm gloss myself, but I feel pretty confident in saying that. I've done pretty well for myself. I've done pretty well for my family. Like I said, I've got a fantastic daughter. I've got a fantastic wife. I've got 2 fantastic greyhounds that are sleeping here in the studio today. So I want to put that out there, because there's going to be various people who are going to say, well, if he had a traditional marriage, or he had this kind of marriage, or whatever. It's like, no, I have a traditional marriage. I have a conventional marriage. I have a marriage of the way that marriage ought to be done. Okay, that's where we're at. But again, standard caveat: I'm going to get very critical of marriage today. So keep that in the back of your head while we're working through this video here. So I'm gonna put Andrew back in here, because I want you guys to get an understanding. I'm gonna pick this apart. We're gonna go with this point by point, and I want you to get an idea of just where the conservative / traditional set, where their mindset is at with respect to marriage. I have talked about these issues in past videos and in other episodes, certainly the one about Candace Owens not too long ago. But it wasn't specifically about marriage, and it certainly wasn't specifically about MGTOW. Now, I'm going to defend MGTOW today. Again, don't get your panties in a bunch. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. We're not anybody's enemies. We're not anybody's friends. We're just here looking at the objective facts that are going on in this. So I'm going to continue with this, and we're going to have a look here. Let me put him up. Oh, I got to put him back in the stream. Here we go.
We talked about this with Liz Wheeler, and her answer was, as Milt might have said, her answer was of a higher strain. I'll get back to that in just a minute, what Liz said. This guy says it's absolute trash. His name is Aaron. He says it's absolute trash from Satan, and I'm tired of arguing with people in the comments. Please dissuade them of their delusions. Thank you, Master Klavan, Speaker of Klavan, of the House of Klavan, upon which all Klavanites depend for guidance and for wisdom. Okay,
Sounds kind of culty, but maybe that's just me. Let me just throw this out there really quickly. I bring myself up here. Whenever I pick up on sort of religious or Christianese, I feel like it's incumbent upon me to point it out. Again, I'm not. This is not Christian bashing. If that's your religion, fine. If that's not your religion, fine. As I've said in my well, let me put this up here really quickly. In my fourth book, The Rational Male Religion, I get into a lot of these topics that he's about to touch upon right now. Particularly if you have the book and if you've read the book, in the main chapter, that one of the big central chapter of the book is about marriage. In fact, it's even just titled Marriage. And a lot of the things that he's going to get into today, and the misunderstandings and the misappropriations that he's going to get into today with respect to MGTOW and their understanding of marriage, modern contemporary marriage today, this century, 21st century, are all outlined in that book. So there's your plug today. It's actually the first link in the description of this video. So if you haven't picked it up yet, please do, because you will be, I think you will have a much greater appreciation for what I'm going to get into here in just a moment.
Last week I asked Liz Wheeler, I said, I got married, and in getting married, I, made a commitment that meant not having other things, but I also got a home, I got someone to take care of me, I got someone who was going to raise my children full time, I got a feminine influence in my life, and a lot of guys feel that they don't get this. Why should a guy get married if all his...
Okay, so this is standard caveat number one, or standard, let's see, comeback, conservative take number one. Again, something I get into in the fourth book, The Rational Male Religion. It is almost always, marriage is almost always understood as transactional from this mindset. It's almost always like, well, what do I get for this? And I think that's where a lot of guys kind of miss the narrative when it comes to the criticisms that comes to MGTOW or comes to anything really, MRAs or even TradCons, when it comes to marriage, because they think it's sort of this like quid pro quo, right? It's what do I get for this? And in that respect, I think it's that's usually where most guys go to first when they criticize marriage or they criticize modern marriage. It's, I'm going to lose half my stuff. And I think that's a mistake. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying that's not the place to begin, maybe even, but I think it's too easy. It presents, I've had, let's see, in the book, I actually had this conversation with Dr. Everett Piper when I was on the Pat Campbell show a few times, and we were discussing the ins and outs of marriage. I took the and I hate to say it, the anti marriage side of the argument or the debate, and he took the pro-marriage side. And the first, and I expected this too, the first criticism was, well, it's got to be a two-way street, man. It's got to be, you've got to share this and share that, and if you think you're getting something out of it, then you're just a taker kind of guy. You're just trying to take, right? And that's usually where most MGTOWs start when they criticize marriage, is that it's an all downside risk, and they're right about that. It is an all downside risk right now. But I think it's a mistake to begin right there, because there's this presumption that it should be this sort of equal, even egalitarianism. That's really where this starts. And I think what's funny is most traditional conservatives kind of don't like the idea of egalitarianism so much, although I think maybe that's probably changing when it comes to marriage right now. So, he's saying, I got this, I got the feminine influence, I got a full-time mother for my kids, And so it's predicated on exchange. And if you have seen the videos that I've done about the transactional nature of sex versus the validational nature of sex, now that's from a game, sort of PUA, sort of, intersexual dynamics understanding of the things, but it also applies to long-term relationships, of course. So if your marriage is fundamentally a transactional marriage rather than a one that is founded on validation of that other person or the actual genuine desire to be with that person, then yeah, you might have a case with respect to, well, what do I get out of it? Now, of course, what is the standard counter to that is that it is an all downside risk for guys today. It didn't used to be that way. I'm going to explain why it is here in just a second. But again, I get into most of what I'm talking about here in my fourth book, in the marriage chapter that's in the center of it. But I wanted to point this out here early on because a lot of the rationale or the reasoning behind why guys should get married is exchange. It's, I can get this for this. And what most guys who are critical of guys who are critical of marriage will say is, well, you're just take instead of give. And it's when you see articles like how women are frustrated with finding the right guy because they can't find an economically attractive guy, that's founded on the transactional nature of sex, the transactional nature of relationships, and in this case, the transactional nature of marriage. And that's where this begins. So if it is only about what you can get, if it's only about having somebody, mother your children or having a feminine influence, you can get that without marriage. So that's a very weak position to begin from certainly if you are a critic of MGTOW. And it's also kind of a weak position to begin from if you are MGTOW, if you are in fact MGTOW and you're like very anti-marriage. I'm never going to get married. I'm a sworn bachelor. I'm a confirmed bachelor, and I'm going to stay a bachelor for forever, right? Well, when tradcons hear that, they think that it sounds like you're being pissy, right? You're being petulant. You're being this bratty little child, or you haven't grown up enough yet to see the value of marriage. Well, no, in this day and age, in this 21st century, we are better educated about not only the risks of marriage, but also the costs or the investments that we make in the belief that we should be married and that this is what we should think about marriage. So there's that right now. Let's move on a little bit further with this guy.
Going to get is a second income that he wouldn't need if he were alone. And she talked about this in Catholic terms of being in a marriage, a taste of the experience of God's love for the church, which is of a high strain. And I actually agree with her that is included in marriage, but it's not really the physical rewards that we were talking about before. I mean, you can have sex without getting married. You can have female company without getting married. What do you get for being married? And a lot of guys feel that because of feminism, they're not getting anything, and they're just being used as a cash cow, essentially, and they feel hard done by.
All right, so let's move back here. Once again, the belief is that the only reason why guys would go their own way, or why guys, let's not even put it in terms of MGTOW right now. He's going to do that more later on here, but let's just take that out of the equation. You just say you're a guy. You don't have to be MGTOW to swear off a marriage. You don't have to be an MRA to see the principles and the sort of injustices, but certainly the imbalances of a gynocentric social order and how it works against men. So when we hear things like, well, I can get it outside of marriage, or guys think that they can get it outside of marriage, what's in it for me? And again, this is where I sort of I don't say locked horns, but I sort of disagreed with Dr. Everett Piper when I had that discussion with him, is that it's sort of this back and forth. What do you get out of it? And I think what's interesting to me is that the rationale for, and he's about to say this later on here in this video, the rationale for guys who are sort of swearing off a marriage right now is, again, they get pissy and they get sort of like, pouty and, I can't find the right woman. That's what we're supposed to, that's the kind of like the gist of the conversation that we're supposed to get. Or those guys are incel losers and they can't really, they wouldn't measure up. They're not good. They're not being chosen by women because they have this bad attitude, and the bad attitude stems from feminism, or it stems from, in this, I've never heard him use the word gynocentrism, but it stems from this feminism. That's really, that's what tradcons don't understand the term gynocentrism, but they do understand the term feminism. And he's gonna use this a few other times. It's almost laughable. But the thing is this, is that they think it's a raw deal, and the raw deal is not based on the realities of what marriage has become, which is an unconscionable contract. I will explain to you what that means here in just a moment. But most MGTOWs, from at least the educated ones anyways, at least the guys who have thought this through or are seeing this on a daily basis, or they can't help but not, it's unignorable, right? They can't help not see this all the time. They're not necessarily just basing their decision on some pissy, oh, give it right, Wellman. It's not just that. It's looking at statistics, and I'm about to present some statistics here in just a moment. But it's also looking at these things that are observable every single day. And it's not just social media; it's the internet. It's seeing it in the hearing it around the water cooler. It's not just an online thing, because everybody else is influenced by online. So even when you are out in the open and you're just living your life in real time, you're still listening to opinions that were formed by people who got their information from online. So there is that. But it's not just about I don't want to lose half my stuff. It's not just about what do I get out of it. It's about caution. It's about protecting oneself now. It might have been about that before. And that's usually when you're approaching marriage from a transactional perspective, that's usually the only reason that makes sense, right? Well, you guys you're just not ready to sacrifice. You just haven't grown up yet. You just don't realize how edifying an experience, and God wants you to get married, and anything in the book, anything that affirms that belief set is thrown out there to sort of say, well, it's just because you guys just don't want to take you guys are risk averse. Well, yeah, but they're risk averse for a reason. They're right for the wrong they're right for the wrong reason. So let me continue a little bit more.
And my answer to this is that I think that you're confusing feminists with women, which is not to say that feminists are not women. It is to say that women are not necessarily feminists. Life is not Twitter. Life is not Facebook. Life is life. Life is...
All right. I have to stop it here. My bad. Probably should have stopped it later. No, Andrew, all women are feminists. No, Andrew, you, in fact, are a feminist. Candace Owens, in fact, is a feminist. Dennis Prager is a feminist. And what is it? Was it Allie Beth Stuckey? She's a feminist too. As much as they want to say, well, feminists they just look like Laura. Was it Laura? What the hell's her name? I don't even know. The feminists just have purple hair, and they are, they've got underarm pit hair, and they look like feminine. That's what a feminist looks like, a villain from a Judge Dredd comic book. That's what they look like, right? No, you're a feminist. I'm a feminist. Everybody you know, right? Anybody you know who has been born really after, say, like 1965 is a feminist, or they've had, and what I mean by that is they've had feminist ideology in some way influence who they are and into their personalities. That is by design. It has been that way for almost 60 years now. Actually, probably over 60 years now. So when you say, oh, I believe in an egalitarian, equal partnership in marriage, congratulations, you are a feminist. Are you willing to say, let's go and abortion is murder. Let's take murder. We need to remove abortion. Let's overturn Roe v. Wade. The reason why you would even have that as an anti-feminist ideal is because feminism at some point got us to the stage where abortion was safe and legal. That's why. And so your concept, even of the counter to feminism, means that you understand feminism in some way. So yes, when people say, well, not all women are feminists. No, they are. And a lot of the things, and anything you see on TV, anything you see on Marvel, anything you see on Disney, anything you see, hell, even the stuff that you see on the Daily Wire. A lot of that, you don't realize where that influence is coming from. I did a full episode on feminism not too long ago. again, I think I sort of picked apart Candace Owens. So I'll put the link at the end of this video so you guys can go view that. It's a short form video, so it doesn't even take too long. But again, you're a feminist, I'm a feminist, everyone's a feminist in some way, shape, or form. We've had feminist ideology influence the way that we think. Even if you believe in casual sex, even if you have come to the term, or you don't believe in casual sex, right? You've come to terms with who you are as a person, who you are as in your belief set in the 21st century as a result of influences of a feminist ideology of some sort. So until you're ready to say, let's repeal the 19th, or let's make abortion is murder, right? Well, okay, well, if abortion is murder, are you ready to charge all the women who've had abortions with murder one? No, they're not, right? The first thing they will say is, well, the men bear responsibility too. And they're not wrong. But if you're going to call it murder, you got to start with the person who made the decision to murder the child, right? Well, they don't want to talk about that because somewhere along the line, they have some sort of sympathetic, bone in their body as a result of a feminist ideology that found its way into their education at some point during their life, even if they were in grade school. So bear that in mind whenever you hear traditional conservative guys talking about, well, there are some women are feminists and some women aren't. No, they are all feminists. In fact, a lot of guys, even today, who are staunch anti-feminists, still the reason they are is because they had to have an understanding of feminism in order to become anti-feminist. So there you have it.
Something that happens between people in a room together presently in three dimensions. And so a lot of these guys, I think, are living too much on the common sections and not living enough in life. One of the things that can happen in life is you can tell people what it is you're looking for, what it is you want. You can even do this online with some of the matching things, and some of the matching websites. And, there are people out there, as the old saying goes, there's a boy for every girl in the world and a girl for every boy. If what you are saying is women...
Okay, that right there is the soulmate myth. Now we're hearing this from okay, boomer, well, whatever, okay? I want you guys to see this live in real time. This is how the soulmate myth works. This is how guys get one-itis, especially how do TradCon men get one-itis? They believe in the ideal, that there's someone out there for you. There's one boy for every girl. Do you think that that's what they thought? Do you think that that was actually a thing back even 100 years ago, 200 years ago? Do you think you would have heard that? The reason for the soulmate myth, by the way, and this is just sorry about the aside here, but the reason why the soulmate myth is endemic still in our culture today is because of the romantic ideal, first of all, another concept you'll find in my fourth book, Religion. But it has a purpose. There's a latent purpose to the soulmate myth. And that latent purpose is socially enforced monogamy. And when we remove women's dependence upon men for provisioning, protection, the beta buck side of hypergamy, with a protection, provisioning, and parental investment. When you remove that, or you make that optional, even just make that optional, how do you keep the guys invested in monogamy? Well, you've got to do it on the mythological, almost metaphorical truth basis of the woo-woo magical thinking basis. How do you do that? Well, you inculcate that in generation after generation of guys to believe exactly what he just said. There's one boy for every girl. When, there's someone out there for everyone. And that right there is probably one of the reasons why it is the very first chapter in the first book, in my first book, The Rational Male. One-itis, the fallacy of the one. What is it? There is no one. There are some good ones and there are some bad ones, but there is no one. And when you approach it from that perspective, it's much healthier than saying, oh, well, she's your soulmate. There's only one of them out there for you, preordained before birth, blah, 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 blah. Women fall into that trap too. We're not going to excuse them out of that as well. But that has a latent purpose, and the latent purpose is to get guys to still buy into an old order way of thinking when it comes to marriage and when it comes to forming families and when it comes to forming relationships and everything else that goes along with that. You can't get guys to sign on to an unconscionable contract unless you in some way find a way to gaslight them into believing that this is what they should do. This is the right thing to do. And even if it's not from a religious perspective, we can make it from a kind of a quasi-religious perspective, which is the romantic ideal. Finding true love That's the religion. There is, and again, once again, in where is it? Let me put this on here. In my fourth book, Religion, that's what I talk about. It is, I name a chapter in there, love is God, not God is love. Because we've made love a God. We've made love this ephemeral ideal that we have to live up to. So anything is okay as long as love wins. You'll hear that from homosexuals. You'll hear that from the woke. You'll hear that from transgender activists. What does it matter as long as they love each other? Love is the highest ideal. And that same highest ideal is used not just by the woke, but also by traditional conservatives. Well, our romantic love justifies our relationship rather than our relationship justifies our romantic love. Again, I can't get into too much detail in that, but you will find it written down in book 4. Andrew, if you have not picked up book 4, I think that's probably the best place for you to start with when it comes to the rational male stuff. Let's continue.
Are what feminists portray them as, then I think you're being very foolish. I think that is foolishness. Most women are, like I said, they're looking for something that could be very much like what you're looking for. And maybe it's if you're going out with people who are shallow, who are greedy, that may be on you. I mean, I think it's a little bit juvenile to be basically controlled by a media image of what women are. You are letting the left, which runs Hollywood, which runs the media, which even runs social media, you are letting them create your picture of who women are every day.
Okay. Once again, here we go. A lot of guys, a lot of MGTOWs are going to watch this video because they saw the thumbnail or whatever else, are going to say, "Oh, well, this is classic shaming tactics, right? It's all your fault that you can't find the right woman." And it's not. It's not shaming tactics. It's only shaming tactics if the guy knows it's BS and he's throwing it out there anyway. That's when it's shaming. He actually believes this. Now you can say, well, he's old, he's a boomer. By the way, his wife is, what's her last name? Ellen Flanagan. Doesn't even have his last name. So that ought to tell you something right there. Also, Candace Owens, when are you going to change your last name to your husband's last name? Again, let's talk about how we're not feminists. A feminist ideal, not taking your man's last name. Hell, make him take your last name. Why is that? That sounds very feminist to me. Now, I've done videos about women assuming your surname, your last name. And not too long ago, actually, about 2 weeks ago, I did that. Have a look at that video and you'll understand why I'm critical of that. But again, there you have it, evidence of feminism, even within the traditional conservative sort of mindset or the belief anyways. But this guy genuinely believes this. It's not just, well, that might be on you. You might just not be the kind of guy that these girls want to get with. Well, of course you're not, because you're looking at what's going on. It's unignorable online. You can say, well, you've been spending too much time online. Okay, what am I supposed to do? Stick my head in the sand? Not be educated, not understand this, not observe what's been going on for, well, certainly the last 21 years, if not the last 61 years. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to be ignorant? Are you supposed to say, well, ignorance bliss, and if I don't know about it, then maybe things will work out for me. I wish that marriage could work for, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I have a really great marriage, and I really wish that it could be something that guys could have for themselves. I wish I had I wish I had a formula for you. I wish I had a template for you guys to all have a successful, happy, loving, sex-filled, joy-filled, marriage, whatever you want to call it. Be blessed, right? I wish that could happen. But in modern times, certainly in the 21st century, if not since really the 1970s, it's been a downhill battle for marriage. And I'm going to explain to you something statistically here right after this video is done, just so that we are all on the same page here, Andrew Klavan. But it's not just these guys not figuring. In fact, if anything, it's because they figured it out on their own. They already can see this. They're not doing it because they're bitter. They're not doing it. Well, maybe they're bitter. Maybe they are burned. Maybe they have a right to be burned. I don't know. But I would say by and large, even if you're not MGTOW, you eschew marriage, right? You turn down marriage. It doesn't necessarily have to be because you got burned. It might simply be the most pragmatic, logistical thing that decision that a guy can make in his life. right now. Again, I am not against marriage. I am against the way we do it now. And you know who screwed that up? Tradcons and wokesies and leftists and left wing, right wing. Everybody has been involved in this. It is not on just one side. It's not the Hollywood, they screwed everything up for us. It's not because, it's not because of not just because of pornography. It's not just because of Hollywood. It's not just because of these things. It's not just because of feminism. It's the whole enchilada, including you. Including traditional conservatism. The reason for that is because we can't get stuck out and put it in gear, man. We're stuck in neutral and we can't get it into gear. And the wheel will never get it into gear until we see the cold, hard facts that I'm going to present to you here in just a moment.
I see women who are absolutely devoted to their husbands and their families and who bring that incredibly invigorating and life-giving feminine influence into the lives of their husbands. I don't know why you should surrender the search for that simply because you're being told that it doesn't exist and simply because you met people who are shallow and selfish. Maybe, I always say this to women when they tell me I can't find Mr. Right. I always say, are you Miss Right? And I think the same answer would go to some of these MGTOW guys that say, well, if you're meeting people who are shallow and selfish, what about you? What are you putting out there that attracts these shallow, selfish people instead of deep people who want the kind of deep relationship you pretend to be looking for?
Okay. Most MGTOWs are not looking for that deep relationship. Okay. This is very Pollyanna idealistic. Most MGTOWs are walk away from marriage because it's the most pragmatic decision that they can make. It just simply doesn't make sense to get married. I don't know how you resolve that problem. I've said in the past, and I still believe this, men and women are better together than we are apart. You have to find some way to bring both the parties back to the table, right? And you're not going to do it with this, it's because of what do you really want? What's your dreams? What's your hopes? Hope is not, especially in the 21st century, hope is not a strategy. You'll hear that from me. You'll hear that from all kinds of other people as well. And it's not a strategy because it's not that they're spending too much time online. It's not, and granted they are, but that's not the reason. It's not because guys are commiserating. That's the result. That's the product of this, of the realities, let's just say, of the sexual marketplace being in their face 24/7, whether they're online or they're not. Once you put the red pill lens on, you don't take the glasses off. You don't get to listen to music the same way. You don't get to watch movies or read books or we even have conversations about intersexual dynamics anyways, in the same way that you used to. You've been unplugged from the matrix and there's no going back once you have been. And more guys, even if as I said before, even if you remove all the ROLLO TOMASSIs and you remove all the Rich Coopers and the Ryans and whoever else, you just erase the red pill tomorrow, you're still going to be dealing with this because it is unignorable. It's not because guys have said, oh, hey, we're all going to just, band together and form this coalition so women will shape up because we really, deep down in our heart of hearts and the still small voice says, oh, we really want to be married, but we can't. That's not what it's about. Maybe they do. I think that most guys would really love to have a great relationship and would love to have a loving feminine energy, whatever the energy you want to call it, crap. Maybe that's what they desire, but what prevents them from that is not because they're like, oh, I just don't want to do the work. That's not necessarily where it begins. Yeah, they don't want to do the work, but that's not where it begins. It begins in a practical assessment of an unconscionable contract. And that's what marriage has become, is an unconscionable contract. Now, what is an unconscionable contract? I'm about to read to you the description of that. I got it. It's kind of a boring website here, but I'm going to read this. This is from legalmatch.com. What is an unconscionable contract? An unconscionable contract is a contract that is so severely one-sided and unfair to one of the parties that it is deemed to be unenforceable under law. Unconscionability in contract law means that the contract is one that leaves one of the parties with no real meaningful choice, typically due to significant differences in bargaining power between the parties to the contract. One of the main characteristics characteristics of the unconscionable contracts is that one of the parties signed the contract in a situation that involved pressure. who's doing the pressuring, huh? Lack of information, or because they were misled. If a lawsuit is filed and the court finds that the contract is unconscionable, the contract will typically be declared void. If a contract is declared void, there is no damages awarded or specific performance is ordered, but instead the parties will be released from their original contract obligations. An unconscionable contract is also a type of abusive contract. Abusive contracts are illegal and unfair to one of the parties. These types of contracts are void under the law and are not enforceable. An unconscionable contract, abusive contract is a contract that is so one-sided it would be unjust for one of the parties to be required to perform their duties under that contract. The majority of abusive contracts are deemed unconscionable due to unequal bargaining power between the parties due to one party's lack of knowledge or experience or resources. So there you have it. Now, why am I putting this out there? Again, this is I'm actually quoting from the Rational Male, Book 4, Religion. Marriage has been likened today, anyways, 21st century marriage has been likened to an unconscionable contract, meaning that were you to know all of the stipulations, were you to know everything, had you not been misled, had you not been pressured into it, you would not, of sound mind, would not enter into that contract, and therefore it is null and void. I am looking forward to the day when some savvy, smart, guy is going to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna get a divorce, but I'm gonna get an annulment, and it's going to be based on the fact that this was an unconscionable contract. This marriage certificate, this marriage contract, was an unconscionable contract." Because that's where we've kind of come, right? I mean, that's where the practicality of it leads. It is an all downside risk for men. When you look at the statistics, when you look at people say, "Well, I don't want to lose half my stuff." It's not just that; it's destruction of families. You want to know that's stat number one. Stat number two is this, and I'll drop this on you. This again is something I quote in Book 4. The U.S. marriage rate has reached historic lows in 2018, according to federal data spanning more than a century. Social and economic shifts in the U.S. are visible through the lens of the country's marriage rate, measured as the number of marriages per 1,000. That rate has fluctuated since the early 1900s, most notably around the time of the Great Historical Significance, according to the report from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Okay, for example, the marriage rate reached 12 per every 1,000 in 1929, the advent of the Great Depression, right? Falling to 7.9 in 1932, and yada, yada, on and on. Okay, so we are presently in 2018, the rate fell to 6.5, the lowest level in the 118-year period covered by the new report. This new report, and we'll put the link in the description so you guys can have a look at that. Long story short, we are here in I think that was back in 2018. I believe it is now at 6.1, not 6.5. But regardless, we are at an all-time low in marriage. And that is not just because guys are walking away from it. That is not just because of guys who are pissy and can't find the right. You're just dating the wrong guy, or the dating wrong girls, right? That's not just because of that. Okay, there's a lot more that goes along with that. Again, feminism, gynocentrism. You want to know where a lot, like, guys will tell me this all the time, that the real reason for the decline in the marriage rate is, of course, is socioeconomic, and to a degree they're largely right. I would say that's certainly half of it, if nothing else. Putting women into the position where they can be independent. Now, I'm not saying that women shouldn't be independent. I'm just saying that we make women independent at the expense of men. And again, I will reiterate this one more time, because too many people take me out of context when I talk about this, is that when I say women need to be strong, independent women, and we have, Disney and Pixar teaching 5-year-old girls that they can do anything and they need to be independent, blah, blah, blah. They need to be strong. We need more strong women in Hollywood. We need more Ellen Ripley's in Alien, right? We need more strong, ass-kicking G.I. Janes. When you see that, that's as a result of an impetus or a social narrative that is pushed on that feminine ideology. So when you're looking at things like that, when you're looking at those roles, and you're seeing women saying, "Oh, I can be independent of any guy," that's what the independence is from. That's what the original term was meant to relate. If you go back to Gloria Steinem, if you go back to the early 70s with the militant feminist movement back then, it was a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That's because there was this ideal that women should live up to, which is we need to be independent. Independent of what? Independent of men. Independent of having to be provided for. The 3 P's, right? Provisioning, protection, and parental investment. And that's exactly, since the 60s, that's exactly what we have pushed forward to where we're at right now. So if you want to know why the marriage rate is in the toilet right now, you want to know why logistically, pragmatically, guys are cautious about this. Even women are cautious about this, right? We'll say, well, women want to be, they're careerist women, or they're starting their business, or we don't call women kidults when they are 30 and unmarried. We don't even call them spinsters anymore. We say they're working on their career. They can freeze their eggs, Andrew. They can freeze their eggs. They can go, you can have it all, baby. Even if that means you don't have a husband, and even if that means you have to have artificial insemination, even if that means you got to go down to the sperm bank, select the guy that you want to have, breed with, and you can inseminate that into one of your frozen eggs. That is now a benefit for middle managers in Fortune 500 companies. That's okay. We're good with that. Are all those women feminists, or are they not feminists? No, they are all feminists. And they wouldn't have those options were it not for an ideology that has been pushed into the popular consciousness since the sexual revolution. That's why. That's why the marriage rate is in the toilet right now. That's why the divorce rate has dropped too. Because if people ain't getting married, they're not getting divorced. That's why you hear poly is now a thing, right? Poly thruples and poly relationships. That's why you're hearing that. That's why you're looking at alternative, relationship strategies. That's a nice cutesy way of saying that we're just going to let our freak flag fly. But it's not monogamy. It's certainly not socially enforced monogamy. It's not the kind of monogamy that was instrumental, is the keystone in creating a Western society that you want to protect so much. So when we're talking about, what is it that's contributing to the decline in marriage? What is it that's contributing to that? It's a hesitancy to get married in the first place. And it does not start, it might include, but it does not start with, oh, these guys are just kidults. Oh, these guys haven't, they haven't really prepared themselves for life. They're not going to college. The college enrollment for men is like a third of what it is for women right now. And maybe that's, again, a logistical, pragmatic decision that these guys are making, as opposed to them just wanting to extend their adolescence or whatever. It's not just because they're incel losers. It's because they see the writing on the wall. They don't want to sign on to an unconscionable contract. They see it every day. They see their friends. They see it online. There's not a day that doesn't go by that there's not an art, and not just on social media, on your own websites, on Daily Wire, on Fox News, on name the conservative on Breitbart, right? Name it. There's going to be some instance, some story on there about how a guy, and maybe it's a really tragic story. Maybe it's a guy who puts a gun in his mouth after he killed his wife and his kids because the wife was cheating on him, or because he got zeroed out. We don't talk about those things. When a generation of guys who are marriageable age guys see this 24/7 and they go, I don't want to have anything. I don't want to put a gun in my mouth. I don't want to that. It's not just about, oh, she's going to take half my stuff. There's a lot more consequences. There's a lot more like outcomes and products as a result of that decision. And that's something that guys are, maybe rightly a little bit hesitant about.
Yeah, I mean, you got to distinguish between activism and people. You've got to distinguish between the internet and real life, and you've got to distinguish between this massive effort, massive cultural effort that the left is putting forward to turn their lives into reality. And one of the things, I just want to add one more thing, because I've noticed these guys who are younger than I am. I grew up in a world in which women were mostly moms, mostly homemakers, And so I didn't have that influence, but a lot of guys, because of feminism, grew up with a lot of lies. They were told that women were the same as them. They were told that women were as strong as them. They were told that they were a threat to women, but women weren't a threat to them. When they find out all these things are untrue, when they find out that there is a tension between male and female, and that women are different from them and want different things and are looking for different things, and have different flaws, and there are a different set of female flaws than there are male flaws, typical male and typical female flaws, they are angry. They get angry. And I see a lot of this in younger guys. I see a lot of anger because they were lied to. Get angry at the people who lie to you. Don't get angry at the people that they lie about.
All right, there we go. So that's the end of that. That's the end of that video. Now, at the end of that, I'm not going to say he sticks the landing or anything here, but in a sense, he's right. That is the fundamental premise of the red pill, right? You're unplugged from the lies that you believed before. And so in a way, he hits it. He's right, but for the wrong reasons. He's right. Yeah, guys get upset. Guys are angry. That's the first thing people will say. Well, Rollo Tomassi, man, yeah, read his stuff because it's true, but it's truthful anger. And don't let it influence the way that you think, but be informed. Like, no, you can be angry. That's okay. That's one of the 5 stages of unplugging. There's an anger phase. Don't dwell in it. Don't stay there for sure. And the way that you don't stay there is you understand that there's a lot more opportunity outside of your blue pill way of thinking, and there's more opportunity inside the red pill paradigm. That's how you get out of the anger phase. Do you want to talk about black pill? There is no such thing as black pill, okay? There's only the red pill. If you think that you are black pill, it's usually because you have not seen the opportunities of using the understanding and the awareness of that the red pill provides you, and like just what he was saying, like, freeing yourself of the lies, unplugging from the matrix, take the red pill instead of the blue pill, right? You just don't understand that there's more opportunity living in a red pill paradigm than there is in hoping that you can make red pill realities and red pill awareness work to get all of those great blue pill things that you really, 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 really wanted. But no, those blue pill things are a lie. They're nonsense. And so, yeah, in a way, I would be surprised if you didn't get angry. You should get angry. You're damn right you're going to get angry. But most guys, and he's right about this, he did pick up on this, when guys unplug from the matrix, when guys, go from their blue pill conditioning, and conditioning in this case means the village, means, popular media, means he wants that, like, of course, traditional conservatives want to blame that blue pill conditioning solely on leftist and progressivist ideas. And for a great amount of that, they're right, but they are also implicit in it as well, in that blue pill, understanding that blue pill conditioning as well. It's not just blue pill. It's not just leftist. It's not just a progressivist ideals. I'm not saying it's not at all, but I'm just saying that it is also a combination, because there are just as many blue pill traditional conservative, if not as many traditional conservative guys who are just every bit as blue pill. They're just blue pill in a different way. It's easier, especially now. It's much easier to throw rocks at the woke, right? The woke sees, oh my God, they want free sex and they're degenerates, and oh yeah, you're right. But you also have to take into consideration that it's also on the opposite side as well. So when you're going to hear all this stuff about, complementarianism and this and that and everything else, and then go to your church and hear a sermon about how women need to allow men to have some kind of authority or to believe that they're in some way the head of the household. That's part of that ideology of feminism. They just they don't call it that. It's not feminism with purple hair. It's not feminism with under armpit hairs on women. It's not, Lena Dunham. It's not fat Lena. That was the name I was trying to catch. It's not fat Lena Dunham. It's Tommy Lahren. It's Gretchen Carlson, man. It's all. I'm dating myself now. I mean, you think of whatever blonde hair, blue eyed girl that you see on Fox News or on any kind of conservative TV that wants to sell themselves as a pundit. Ann Coulter. The reason why Ann Coulter is successful at what she does, whatever you want to talk about when it comes to her ideology or being a pundit, whatever, I don't care about that. The reason she's on TV is because at one point, maybe not now, but at one point she was that blonde hair, blue eyed, bimbette that Tommy Lahren. Tommy Lahren wanted to be. She's heir apparent for what I'm trying to think. I'm blocking on the name of the girl who was it Clarkson? No, not Kelly Clarkson. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about because they're so common. Go look on Daily Wire. I'm sure you'll find one. Candace Owens is a rare specimen, but she's there and she's in that position thanks to feminist ideology. Now, she might say, oh, I'm not a feminist, so I don't identify as a feminist. Identifying as a feminist today is basically meaningless. Because if you are in that position, if you are raising your daughters on Frozen, if you're raising your daughters on the narrative of fempowerment and egalitarianism and equalism and the blank slate and the ghost in the machine, if that's what you are raising your kids on, you're essentially opening the door for a feminist ideology. We're all anti-feminists until we say let's repeal the 19th, and then suddenly we're not anymore. I don't think that we're going to be able to do that. Again, it's another major disagreement that I have with most MGTOWs who want to say repeal the 19th. It's fundamentally impractical, but you use that as any kind of leverage with a TradCon, and suddenly they clam up. Then you just don't want to take responsibility. So you have that right there. Now I'm going to drop some statistics here just for the edification of Andrew Klavan here because he needs to hear these stats. Okay. Number one is this, and I already mentioned this. The U.S. marriage rate is at an all-time low. I believe it's at 6.1. It's at least 6.5 per 1,000 right now. It is as low as it has ever been since they started recording it in 118 years, according to that one. Maybe it's actually probably more than that now. So that's number one. Number two is the average age of first marriage, and this is something that's in my fourth book. I'll put that back up again. Is the average age of first marriage in the United States, because I guess we're going to talk about the U.S. here, but it's different in other countries. But in the United States, the average age of first marriage for men is 29.8 or 29.7, and for women is 28.9. So you're looking at almost 30 years old for first marriage. And that is not a coincidence when you look at how that is the epiphany phase. That is when all the chips are down. That's when women get to the point where it's like, well, I got to get with a guy. My biological clock is ticking. And usually right around 28, 29, 30, 31 years old, that's when you'll hear those arguments from women. That's when you'll hear that narrative broadcast from women. Men, what happened to the nice guys? Where are all the nice men? What happened to the nice men? How come I can't find a good guy? He even said that in this video. How come I can't find a good guy? Well, maybe you're not the right woman. Well, maybe you're not the right man. Well, great. So what are we going to do about it? Even if you become the good guy and the great catch, and she becomes just, Susie Homemaker, man, Susie Cream Cheese. She's ready to put on the sun hat and now she's ready to end her wicked ways, right? She's done with her hoe phase and now she wants to get right with God in the epiphany phase. And now she's going to get married at 29 years old, right? Average age. She's had her fun and no more fun for you. And now I want to get serious. Okay, let's just say you're that perfect ideal and he's that perfect ideal. The contract between Mr. Perfect Ideal and Mrs. Perfect Ideal is very, very much imperfect. It is still an unconscionable contract because it is an all downside loss. Women initiate 70%, at least 70% of divorces right now. Did you consider that, Andrew Klavan? No, I don't think you did. Because things have changed. And I feel like I'm beating up on him. I didn't want to sound like I'm coming down because the guy's probably had a good marriage. Although, again, his wife kept her surname, but whatever. So you've got that as the basis here. So belief, and I get where he's coming from because there's, for an older generation now, he's probably a boomer. I'm Gen X. Again, I've been a very successful, what most guys would say is an ideal marriage for 25 years now. I wish I had some formula to make you have that. In fact, I would very much love to use my marriage as proof of concept. This is what you can do with the red pill. Become red pill aware, make it who you are, fundamentally change your personality according to this new understanding of intersexual dynamics, and you can have a great marriage and your kids will enjoy will love you too, right? I wish I could do that. You will notice that in almost certainly 20 years of writing, if you consider what I did at So Suave, In 20 years of writing, I have made, and a handful of times have I ever used my marriage as any kind of example or any kind of illustration. And that's by design. I don't do that on purpose because I don't want guys to think that, well, you know, what is it? Past success is no indication of future performance, right? And I don't, because I'm not you. You're the girl you're going to find if you want to have a long-term relationship, or you decide that you say, you know what, the risk's worth it. I'm going to get married anyways. Your wife is not my wife. Your kids are not going to be my kids. And so, but I can tell you this, is that if you want to have a successful relationship, whatever that looks like, whether it's a long-term relationship or it's you're poly or whatever it is that you're trying to sort of figure out for yourself, it is absolutely imperative. It is incumbent upon you to be red pill aware and to apply that and build that into your personality. Because the quickest way to a bad divorce is to be stuck in your blue pill ideals and hopes and believing that in one set of rules, in an old set of rules that no one is using, that you think that other people should be using or are actually using. Now, I get where he's coming from, especially in the boomer generation. The boomer generation, which is now suffering the highest instance of gray divorce, which means that once they get to a certain age and the kids are out of the house and whatever, and they look across the dinner table and they go, who the hell are you? I don't want to be married anymore. Yeah, well, I don't either. And so there's a split and that's it. Go look up gray divorce on Google. You'll understand what I'm saying. But there's this they still want the fairy tale. In fact, I would argue that, you know, even MGTOWs, even guys in Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Millennials, whatever, they still want that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in love and to have a good, you know, a good life and a good satisfying relationship. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. It's the practicality of that. So it's not because these guys are bitter losers. It's not because they're just like, oh, it's a plot by Satan. No, it's just logistics, man. It's just practicality. It's pragmatism. Oh, I forget who it was. Dr. Helen had a book. What the hell is her? I forget her last name. I want to say it's Helen Thomas. Had a book back in 2012 called The Marriage Strike or Men on Strike or something like that. And there was this worry that guys were going to come together. Hey, come on, guys. We're going to forget about marriage. We're going to go this way, right? And she wrote this book. It was called Men on Strike. I believe it was Dr. Helen Thomas. I know her first name is Helen. And she went on all these talk shows, especially she went on Fox and Friends, right? She even talked to Tucker Carlson when he was still on Fox and Friends. And they were just dumbfounded on Fox and Friends. Even Tucker Carlson, man, you can go find, I think I have actually saved it. You can go find the video of Dr. Helen on Fox and Friends. I believe it was 2012 maybe, or 2013, somewhere around there, where she's talking to Fox and Friends and Tucker Carlson is on there. And he is just as self-righteous as he possibly can be about marriage. And it was, of course, all the guy's fault for not being good enough for marriage to begin with. And Dalrock has talked about this. Again, that's something I talk about in book 4. He makes the case of this, is that we've gotten to the point where we hold marriage up as this ideal that only elite people can get to. So you have to make it work and you keep it fresh, and relationships take a lot of work, and you have to be the right guy. Even he appealed to this, and it sounded like shame, but it sounds like shaming because it's an ideal that he and his mindset and his ideology believe that men ought to be able to live up to. Again, that is the blue pill from the traditional conservative side of the understanding of this intersexual dynamics. Men have responsibility. That's the cure for everything. If you're not a real man unless you take responsibility. What they don't understand is men don't have authority. And I've harped on this for forever. And yes, I know Turd Flinging Monkey has talked about this as well. Yeah, props. Okay, there you go. But responsibility without authority is slavery. And until we fundamentally change the contractual nature of marriage, you will still see marriage rates plummet. You will still see more guys go MGTOW. You will still see fertility rates drop as a result of that. Because women don't want to get with those losers, and those losers don't want to get with those women. And so as a result, marriage rates plummet to their lowest rates. Fertility rates drop. What is it? And then here's another stat I wanted to throw out there. This is from Rise of the She Economy. I keep quoting this all the time, but I'm just going to give you the most salient part of this. Let's see, where did it go? Oh, here it is. Single women are expected to grow. Let's see. In the coming years, another demographic trend could help further close the pay gap. Right. Of course, they want to cast it in terms of this being a good thing. Right. Based on Census Bureau historical data and Morgan Stanley forecasts, 45% of prime working age women ages 25 to 44 will be single by 2030, the largest share in history, up from 41% in 2018. Okay, if that's the case, if Morgan Stanley and Forbes and all these guys with lots of money are making that forecast right now, what does that tell you? Is that a great victory for women? Because Morgan Stanley, being on that side of the playing field, they certainly do in this article, try to cast it as a victory, as a plus. This is great. Women are going to be all single. They're going to have a lot of money. How can we get them to spend it at our companies? And they're making those plans right now in 2021 for 2030 when those women are still single. And they're working and they're making money, assuming the meteorite doesn't smash into the world and something else happens, right? Why? Why is that? Why are they making those plans? Because they know that the marriage rate is still going to continue to plummet because it's an unconscionable contract. And again, not hitting, I'm not throwing punches. I'm not punching up. I'm not punching right or left. I'm not, not shots fired or anything like that. But whenever I see guys like this, or I see guys like Kevin Samuels, or I see guys who want to hold women accountable or want to, hold their feet to the fire, say, you're not living right, you're average at best, that kind of stuff. Okay, what's the final outcome? If they would be better, if they lost weight, if they had made better decisions, if they had, let's just say you could magically put that 33, 34-year-old woman in a time machine and take her back to when she was 24 and have her make all the right decisions, what would those right decisions look like? Would they be right decisions that would promote them or put them on the path to marriage, to being marriageable, to being more feminine, petite, to keep yourself in shape, girl, learn to cook, you do you, but be like he was just saying before. I come from an age where women were feminine and they took care of the kids and stuff like that. Is that the ideal? Like if we could take 34-year-old, your average at best girl, and put her in a time machine and make her 24 years old and do it the right way. What is the right way? What does it look like? Does it look like marriage? Does it look like marriage between the guy who let's just say he's the guy that gets, we got to put him in a time machine too. And he makes all the right choices and they get to the point where they're, 30 years old. Let's average age of first marriage. Is that the goal? Is that the point? To make people better so that they are more, marriageable, and marriageable in this case being an unconscionable contract. Is that is that the ultimate end to this? Because in the 21st century, we've got 20th century thinkers like this guy, and arguably other guys who are online right now who are advocating, shoot straight, get right, live right, and then you'll be marriageable, and then guys will want you. You'll get a high value man if you do these things. Okay, what does getting a high value man look like? Does it mean marrying him? Does it mean getting into a relationship with him and having children with him and everything else? Well, if that's the case, then the contract that is based upon is an unconscionable contract. So you're still creating this great idealized person to get into the same damn contract that very damaged, very imperfect people are still getting into. So is it the imperfect people that are creating the imperfect contract, or is it just a screwed up, unconscionable contract to begin with? Because I don't think that we ought to be telling guys, I don't think we ought to be telling women, oh, you fly straight, do this, do that, or have some sort of sense of moral high ground, self-righteous indignation over that fact if the end result is still an unconscionable contract. Why? Why would you do that? And that's exactly what MGTOW are saying right now. That's exactly what they're thinking. At least the smart ones are. Not the spurgs, right? Not the spurgtow, not the black pill guys. They're in it for exactly the reason that you're saying here, Andrew. There is always going to be this sort of those guys, that red meat is always going to play to that demographic, but that's not the entirety of MGTOW. There, I said it, right? There's a polarity, right? There's a spectrum of MGTOW. In fact, MGTOW don't even have a unified understanding of what even a MGTOW is. Can you be married in MGTOW? No. Well, can you be single and still dating and banging? Can you be spinning plates and be MGTOW? No. Can you talk to girls? No. Where do you draw the line? And I've said this before, and I will say this one more time, just so people understand this, is that the only unifying principle I can see in MGTOW, or whatever we're going to call it in the future, is that and this is a red pill principle, by the way before MGTOW became a thing, but it is that you don't use women as the metric for your own self-worth. And that, I think, is still and that is definitely some crossover that I think ought to be part of every sort of sub-tribe or every branch of the manosphere tree, is that women need to be women should only ever be a complement to a man's life, never the focus of it. And when women become the focus of your life, that's when things go sideways. That's when you start leaning back towards the blue pill and trying to use the red pill dynamics to get you those blue pill ideals and those goals that you think I would just really wish they were possible, but they're not possible because they are based on the same lie that this guy's talking about right here. Maybe it's the progressives and the wokesies that gave it to you, but it's also the tradcons that put it into your head as well. So it's not just a one side or other side kind of thing. It's both sides are screwing you up, and that both sides are responsible for the state of marriage right now. So let's keep that in mind. And then last but not least, I also wanted to throw this out there is and I think this is a message that Andrew Klavan needs to understand, is that although marriage is an unconscionable contract right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the institution or the idea of a long-term monogamous relationship with a woman is a bad idea. All right. I think it's a very good idea. I hope everyone lives a good, long life, and I hope you find love, and I hope you find fulfillment, and I hope you find somebody who loves you as much as you love them. Boy, wouldn't that be great? But it's increasingly more and more difficult when we see the true natures of women and we see the natures of men. Okay. Men have, and I usually talk about coverture laws and everything else in book 4, but the long and the short of that is that men today have more options, have more maneuverability, have more rights, have more control, more power, and more control over the direction of their life while they are single, rather than when they are married. When you look at how women spend money, when you look at how women assumed, understood authority from within marriage, and men, modern men today who get into marriage, who still want to do it no matter what, they believe that that's the way that it ought to be. That she's the one that makes it. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Happy wife, happy life. Right? Here's my better half. Boy, I'm such a schmuck. I can't believe that God would give me such a great girl because I'm a piece of shit. Right? That mentality, that pre-whipped mentality, is endemic, I think, certainly to a conservative mindset, if not, both sides really. But the more I make, the less of myself, the more I make, the more of her, and that will be the key to a happy marriage. Right? These guys are already in a position or in a state where they believe that deferring to women's authority from within marriage is just the way marriage is done. And that doesn't have anything to do with the contract, although it does in a sense, but it's from a social, even a religious perspective. If mama ain't happy, God ain't happy. If mama ain't happy, if wife ain't happy, it's because you did something wrong. He even Andrew appeals to this as well. Well, maybe you're just not Mr. Right. No, maybe things are just screwed up. Maybe I am Mr. Right and things are just screwed. Have you stopped to think about that for a minute? I don't think about shaming or whatever else. Let's put that aside. Have you thought that maybe, possibly, the situation is so bad that guys are like, this doesn't make sense. Or just 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 equals 5. No, it doesn't. It equals 4. Here it is. That's basically the same argument. I see that all the time. Well, what is math, right? It's the wokesy math, right? 2 plus 2 equals 5. To MGTOW, 2 plus 2 equals 4. To red pill guys, 2 plus 2 equals 4. And here it is. But you're going to tell me that I should think that it's 5? From a moralistic perspective, there's one guy or one girl for every guy out there. That sounds like idealism. That sounds like hope. That sounds like religion. That sounds like metaphysics. That sounds like Shakespeare is what that sounds like. That's the soulmate myth. And again, I'm not saying that magical. Again, if you read my fourth book, I talk about this. Magical thinking is essential to human imagination. We have to have that because that helps us innovate. We come up with better ideas because we can be hopeful about things. I'm not saying hope is a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a bad strategy. Hope is a great thing, but as a strategy, it is not any way to form a life. So. There you have it. That's my spiel for today. If by some fluke of nature, Andrew Klavan wants to talk to me about this, I am more than willing to either have him on this show or I'll go on his show, whatever. We can talk about this. I'm happy to talk about it. Again, not an attack. This is just me sort of sussing things out for guys. If I get a little animated, it's because I'm passionate about it. So there you have it. I will not be on the show for a while. I'm going to be in Miami, Florida this weekend. I will try to do a live stream on Sunday. If I do, it will be very brief and it will be just sort of a Q&A kind of thing from my hotel room, I guess, assuming I do it at all. However, I will be all over YouTube this week. I will be on Fresh and Fit. I will probably be on other people's podcasts as well, who are part of attendees of this conference, which is George Gammon's Rebel Capitalist Conference that is in Miami. It starts actually Friday and it goes till Sunday of this week, which is the 11th through the 13th. After that, I will be in Miami for the following week. I'll be hanging out with Sterling Cooper. We've got a lot of shenanigans planned. We are going to go fishing, by the way. So I've already reserved the deep sea fishing excursion. Hopefully we won't get a 3-hour tour. Won't get caught in a storm or something. And we will probably be doing a show with Kiki Clout and another Spicy Star on Tuesday, most likely on Fresh and Fit. We will be on there. John from Modern Life Dating is doing Hot Dude Con in Miami, which I think has probably started right now. Or if not, it'll certainly be by Thursday, maybe Friday. And then it's going through the weekend. I think we're at 40 guys right now. I know it was above 30. We're at 35 or 40 guys right now who are going down there. It's just a meetup. Doesn't cost you anything. You can go. If you happen to be down there. Also, Paul Benjamin from Rule Zero is going to be with me. He's coming down. I don't know if Drew Bay is going to be down there, but a lot of guys, and I will be there, and it's going to be fun. I will be doing video podcasts from my hotel room as time permits, but look for me on Fresh and Fit all through next week, and look for me on Sterling Cooper's channel, and I will make announcements and comments, and I'll just make big blog posts or whatever about it too. So you will be able to, or hit me up on Twitter if you want to find out where I'm at. So next week's going to be a little chaotic, but I will be all over the place if I'm not right here. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Once again, I'm not anti-marriage. I'm just anti the way that we do it right now. I wish there was a better way to do this. I wish we had some sort of, I wish we could turn the contractual nature of marriage into something else, into a contract or an agreement, or however we do marriage. We need to do it differently. You want people to get married. You want people to be committed to each other. You want to see fertility rates increase. You want to see whatever. You want to see goodness and altruism and everything else flourish, and a return to Western values or your values or whatever. We need to fundamentally change the nature of marriage. And I don't mean like poly or anything like that. I mean like we need to change the contract that is marriage right now into something new, something that is the way we do marriage is old order. The way we need to do marriage needs to be new order. We need a 21st century marriage, not a 20th century marriage. So there you have it. That's my word, and I'm sticking by it. I will see you guys when I see you next, which will probably be on Fresh and Fit. So, and then also, last but not least, Rule Zero. I believe it is Ryan who is hosting this week. I hosted it last week. Ryan's hosting it this week. So, that said, check it out. If not, it might be Rich, but I'm pretty sure it's either Rich or Ryan who's hosting it. It will be Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know that I will be on it, but I know that those guys will be hosting it. So look for Rule Zero on those guys' channels then. So till then, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.